Hello, everyone. If we haven't already met, I'm Claire Jones. Welcome. I'm an author and small publisher, and I've been in the game for quite a while at this point, in the entrepreneurship game, in the creative game, in the marketing game, and this is the much anticipated social media content audit of all of my content from January 2023 to January 2024. So this is 13 months worth of content on my three primary platforms, which is Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So if you are an author too who is trying to make an impact on those platforms, but don't really know where to start, or don't know what kind of content to make, or don't know how to engage effectively with your audiences and get those views and the comments and the engagement that you're looking for, that's why we're here today. So learn from my lessons, because this is all real data. This is all real content that I posted over that 13-month period. So today's video is going to be specifically about, one, my approach to marketing in general, two, my platform's histories, three, the 2023 to 2024 audit, and then four, the takeaway insights that you can use for yourself. I wanted to start with my approach to marketing and my platform's histories first, because I wanted to give you context for the information that you are going to be learning when we do get into the nitty-gritty specifics for the audit itself. And I don't really approach marketing the usual way, and I will show you why. Because my main marketing philosophy is relationships over transactions. Now, how exactly did I get to this? Let me take you back a little bit. I've been an entrepreneur since 2014, so going on a decade at this point, and I've been studying marketing, business development, business organization, all of those things that you need to make a business successful throughout that time. And at first, when I launched my first business back in 2014, it was a brick and mortar general store devoted to local goods in the West Seattle area. And I really didn't know that much about marketing when I first started out. I mistakenly thought that if I just built a good business, provided good products, then the customers would just magically show up, right? And as authors, we definitely have this sense, especially if we don't have the business know-how or the business experience to back us up, that if we just produce a good book, if we just produce a good story, then the readers will arrive. The readers will show up at our door with money in hand, right? But there is a science, there is a strategy, there is a specific approach to marketing that authors really do need to take in order to find the success that they're looking for, to get their books into the hands of paying readers. And that formula is relationships over transactions. I'm not going to be the quantity over quality kind of person. I am the quality over quantity kind of person when it comes to marketing. And the research backs me up on this. So if we look at the Nielsen Group, they are a consumer survey company, and I always go to them when I'm looking for my data because they are amazing. Their 2022 Trust in Advertising Survey, they've been doing this for years at this point. Every 2 to 3 years, they update their surveys and give you the most up-to-date information. The most recent one was the 2022 survey. And they have shown that there are certain kinds of marketing content, marketing platforms, marketing approaches that consumers trust more than others. So if we look at this chart right here, we can see that word of mouth is at the top. Word of mouth is the type of marketing that consumers trust the most. So 33% completely trust word of mouth marketing, and 56% somewhat trust word of mouth marketing, which equals about 89% total. Branded websites comes next. So 17.5% trust it completely, 53.5% trust it somewhat, which makes about 71% total. So this is the level of trust that consumers have in these different marketing methods. Word of mouth is number one, branded websites is number two, and then number three, we have ads in newspapers. And this is an interesting one because the consumers already trust that media outlet, probably already, because they already consume news. They go to that media outlet for current events to figure out what's happening in the world. And so that trust that they already have established with that media outlet, that newspaper, that magazine, that radio show, is probably going to be transferred to the people who advertise through that media outlet. So the ads that are featured in those newspapers, the ads that are featured in those magazines, the ads that are featured in those media outlets, they're going to reap the trust that's already established with the media outlet from their media consumers. So number 4, though, is ads before movies. And this is typically because there's a lot of budget that goes into that. So if someone is seeing an ad before a movie in a movie theater, then they kind of assume that they're already a successful company because they have the marketing budget to invest in that kind of advertising. So we're kind of going to ignore that for now because we're not at that level yet. But then finally, I want to point out number 5, consumer opinions posted online. So this is really the most important part for readers and writers because we're talking about reader reviews here. So the ones that I want to pay attention to today are word of mouth, branded websites, and consumer opinions posted online, but also ads in newspapers, because we're going to talk a little bit about collaborations and how trust can be transferred between collaborative parties. So that's kind of where I approach marketing from. And so I set my marketing priorities with number 1, customer reviews. Customer reviews are the most important for me when I'm setting my marketing strategies. I always ask for customer reviews, and I post them all over the place. They are on my website, they are on the back of my books, they are on my social media profiles, they are in my emails. It is very important to use customer reviews to the best of your ability when you are trying to sell books. Number 2 is my branded website, and especially my link tree. So you have to make sure that customers can find the information that they're looking for very, very easily, ideally within one click. I will talk about this a little later on when it comes to social media profile bios, because this is where my link tree comes into play. I will make sure that my branded website is up to date with all of the very important information that consumers need when they do go to my website. But the preliminary step to getting them to my website is providing them with my Linktree link. My Linktree is basically a table of contents that has all of the important links that are associated with my brand. So my website links, my Amazon book links, my Barnes & Noble book links, my social media links, any of the podcasts that I do, any of the speaking engagements that I do, any of the other products that I offer, as well as the services that I offer. So this is a very well-organized, easy to navigate table of contents for people when they are looking into me for a particular reason. So they are going to my Linktree for a particular reason, and they want to find that exact link that will answer the questions that they have. And so when it comes to your social media profile bios, you need to make sure that that link is clickable. I cannot tell you how many questions and how many comments I've gotten over the last 2-ish plus years with people asking me to make that link clickable, because there's certain levels at your profiles when it comes to amount of followers where that link is not clickable. And so you really do need to prioritize that up front to get to that level of getting access to a clickable link. So number 3 is networking. This is word of mouth for me. This is those personalized relationship-based connections that I have with people in my network. Most of my books are sold through networking connections. I will repeat that again. Most of my books are sold through networking connections. So they are a higher priority for me than social media, for example. Number 4 is podcasts and press. And so this is where those media outlets come into play. Because the consumers or the participants or the viewers of that particular media outlet already trust that media outlet, their trust is likely going to transfer to you if you also show up in that media outlet. So this applies to podcasts. It applies to different press opportunities. So I also prioritize podcasts and press opportunities above social media. So finally, at 5, we have my social media content and strategies. And so this is how I prioritize my time on a weekly basis and effort on a weekly basis when it comes to my marketing activities. So this is all to show that I don't put social media first. It is not my primary mode of marketing. It is not where I put the most time, money, and energy when I am determining my marketing strategies. So let's talk about social media in particular. When I do spend time, money, and energy on it, where do I spend it? So when we are looking at the different platforms available to us, there's an easy way to remember what to use these various platforms for. Facebook is for polarizing soapboxes. You want to be controversial here. You want to be polarizing on Facebook. You want to spark debate. You want to spark conversation. You want to spark ideas on Facebook. For Instagram, this is all about the visual narrative. It is the aesthetic brand. We are being very polished on Instagram. Instagram was originally made as a platform for photographers, and so think of it as a photography-first platform. This is where you're going to do those very aesthetic videos of your book in front of some flowers, or aesthetic videos of your bookshelf, or just making it a vibe. Honestly, it's all about the aesthetic vibe, the visual narrative on Instagram. For YouTube, it's a broad search engine. This is where people go to learn things nowadays or to be entertained nowadays. YouTube is actually one of the fastest growing platforms when it comes to at-home entertainment these days. I think the most recent numbers that I saw was that 1 billion hours were spent on YouTube in the last year, I think it was, watching videos on home TV devices. So people are streaming YouTube to their TVs and watching it primarily through that approach nowadays. And so think about how to create TV-like experiences on YouTube, or create educational experiences on YouTube. How to fix a toilet, how to write a first draft. These are the things that you need to think about when you are creating YouTube content. It is a broad search engine, and it's probably going to surpass Google for the world's top search engine here soon. Twitter, I refuse to call it X. We don't even want to get into that, but it's best used for strong opinions. Kind of like Facebook, but a lot shorter. You have a character limit when it comes to Twitter, and so we're talking about very pointed opinions here. Straight to the point, not a lot of fluff, not a lot of images, not a lot of videos, just straight to the point opinions. If you're a politician, if you're a comedian, if you're an author, if you're one of these public personas that has a very particular point to get across, Twitter is the platform for you. Aesthetic products is the name of the game when we get to Pinterest. So this is basically a shoppable Instagram. So I think the latest numbers that I saw on Pinterest was that 80% of Pinterest weekly users make purchases on the app. And so users go to it to categorize and find their shopping needs, essentially. So think about aesthetic product-based businesses. This applies to authors. This applies to creatives. It applies to designers and artists. So how can you take advantage of that platform as an aesthetic product-based business? But really do make sure that it's aesthetically focused. Make sure that the presentation of the products are as polished as possible. Think of it as the QVC of social media. And then we talk about TikTok. This is for authentic vignettes. So we're talking about real, gritty, behind the scenes authenticity. So vulnerability. So making that real, genuine connection with your audiences in small and short format. So TikTok is trying to branch into the longer format nowadays. So they are pushing videos that are 1 minute and longer versus the previous emphasis on 15-second and 30-second videos. And so people are trying to shift the cultural norms of this platform right now. They're even trying to introduce horizontal format videos, but it's not really going well. So I would recommend sticking to 1 minute or longer videos that are showing people the behind the scenes of your life, showing them the vulnerability, the relatability, the authenticity that you have to offer to them as a personal brand. Because as an author, you are a personal brand, and you have a personal brand whether you harness that brand or not. That brand exists out there in the world, whether you intentionally make it or not. So your digital footprint, even your in real life footprint, is going to determine that personal brand for you, even if you don't take control over the process at all. So I recommend taking control over the process and being way more intentional with your personal brand than letting it develop on its own, because then you have autonomy over it. Instead of it controlling you, you control it. And at the bottom, I do want to recommend adding LinkedIn if you are writing nonfiction. If you are writing business type books, self-development type books, those kinds of things, then do add LinkedIn as a platform for your personal brand. So where do I divide my time? Number one, I focus on TikTok because I am relatable, I'm vulnerable, I am authentic, and it's an easy way to create content. I really don't spend a lot of time polishing. I don't really spend a lot of time editing when it comes to TikTok. So I really do prefer this platform. My values are more aligned with this platform. My audiences are on this platform, especially when it comes to authors and books. Book Talk is a juggernaut in the publishing world. If you're not on Book Talk as an author, you are really disadvantaging yourself. Number two, I spend my second most amount of time on Facebook because that's the platform that I've had for the longest. I've had Facebook since 2006. We'll get into those numbers here in a minute, but it's been a while. I've had Facebook for a long time. And so my audience on Facebook just happens to be more developed than other platforms because I have a longer history with it. Number three is Instagram. I've never been an aesthetic person. I can't uphold the polished aesthetic perfection that Instagram demands. And so I spend some time on it because I have to. It's kind of one of the required platforms as an author. Bookstagram is also huge in the publishing industry, but I cannot keep up the aesthetic, polished feel. If that's your vibe, that's your vibe. It's not mine. So I do pay attention to it a little bit, but not a lot. Number four is YouTube. I spend probably about the same amount of time on Instagram and YouTube each week, but I only do about one YouTube video a week. And that's because I do a lot of education. I do offer a lot of value because I have been in the entrepreneurship space and small business space for my entire career. We're coming up on 20 years at this point, if you can believe it. I have a hard time believing I'm that old, but those are the numbers. And so I do have a lot of value, a lot of education to offer my audiences. And so YouTube is just an easy one for me. I've also been public speaking since 2011. And so that's 13 years worth of public speaking. And I've been doing podcasts and online videos since 2019. And so it is a very easy way for me to create content. It's just well within my skill set when it comes to video creation. And then number five, I do spend a tiny bit amount of time on LinkedIn, but not a lot. So it's just shoved in there. So my posting schedule, let's get into what it looks like on a weekly basis, because I honestly do not spend a lot of time on social media on a weekly basis. Sundays are pretty much TikTok only. That's where I spend most of my off business social media time. So if I feel like posting, I'll post. If not, it's not required. So as needed on Sunday. On Monday, I spend over 30 minutes on TikTok. Some of it is personal, some of it is business, but I do spend more time on there than other platforms. Facebook, I spend around 10 minutes. And so that's answering my notifications, making sure I'm responding to comments, making sure I'm responding to any of the DMs that I get for that day, and also posting the content that I have for that day. Instagram is more like 5 minutes, and that's just solely posting content. I really don't engage that much on Instagram. I make sure that all of my notifications are taken care of, but I don't like scroll through my feed and engage on other people's feeds because I don't have an interest in it. I don't have time in it. It's just what it is. Tuesday is pretty much the same. Wednesday, I do a lot of video content creation. And so Wednesdays on TikTok, I do have a self-publishing Q&A live series that I do every Wednesday afternoon. And so that adds some TikTok time into my schedule. And then I also have a Facebook Live podcast series that I do on Wednesdays. And so that also adds time to my Facebook as well as YouTube time for the week. Thursday is pretty much similar to the rest of the week. Friday is pretty much similar to the rest of the week. And then Saturdays are as needed on TikTok. So I honestly don't spend a lot of time on social media throughout the week. If you want to add it up, add it up. I'm not doing the math for you, but it's pretty reasonable. You don't have to spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours making content and doing all the things. So this is how I make it accessible for myself. So let's talk about my platforms histories. Like I said, Facebook is the one that I've had for the longest. I started it in 2006, but I didn't begin strategically using it for business until 2022. So in March 2022, I had around 865 friends, and in February of 2024, I had 2,657 friends. And that's because I got super intentional about using it for business during that time frame. And to this day, I still use it pretty intentionally. And I only use my Facebook personal profile. I do not have a business profile on Facebook because I don't want to give them any money. I do not like the Zuckerbergs. I do not. I very much value ethical consumption, and I don't want to give them money. And I have found over the years that personal profiles perform better with organic content than business profiles do, as well as Facebook groups do. And so I focus solely on my Facebook personal profile. When it comes to Instagram, I started it for business around 2018. I think I had it for personal earlier than that, but I don't use my personal profile for literally anything nowadays. It's just kind of there. Liminal Clarity was the business that I had before this, and I grew it to around 1,300 followers by the end of 2022. It was a consulting-based business, but I ended up closing it because of those 1,300 followers. Most of them were spam and bots and men trying to get into my DMs, which I do not appreciate. It was not my audience. It was not quality. It was quantity, but it was not quality. So I shut it down. And then Clairjoyance, I started, I think at the end of mid 2022 was when I started Clairjoyance. Yeah, I think I started the Clairjoyance Instagram maybe August of 2022, if I'm thinking correctly. And it's currently at 402 followers as of February 2024. And so because I really don't spend a lot of time on it, it's really not my biggest platform. And so I just grow it as it grows on its own, organically. I don't really put a lot of time and effort into it. So it's currently at 402, which is okay. I'm not really concerned about that. If I want to grow it, I can. If I don't, whatever. It's all right. It's pretty good though, 402. And then TikTok, I started in December of 2021. As of February 2024, it's at 1,386 followers. And this is where I put the majority of my effort when it comes to growing my social media platforms. And so total count over all of my platforms, which includes Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn, I have 6,795 followers. And LinkedIn is my second largest group of followers. I think it's somewhere around 2,500 as well, because I've also had it as long as I've had Facebook. So it's had time to mature. So Facebook and LinkedIn take up the most of my chunk of that total count, and then TikTok, and then Instagram, and then I think YouTube's around 20 something at this point, but I also don't put a lot of time and effort into growing that. That will change though here soon in the future. I'm changing my YouTube strategy. So if you come around next year in March of 2025, I can show you my numbers for growing that over that time period. So stay tuned. So, what do I actually post about? Let's actually get into the specifics when it comes to this content audit that we're talking about here. Let's get practical. Let's get into the nitty gritty. So, what do I actually post about? When it comes to my content on these platforms, what do I talk about? So, this is how I create my branded topics as a multi-passionate creative. I do not niche into one of these circles. I make sure that my content is spread out among all of these circles because I have multiple nerd zones. As an author, you probably do too. So 3 of my primary nerd zones are escapist fantasy, business systems, and liberal politics. And so I make sure that all of my content is within those 3 circles, ideally where they overlap. So let's say, for example, the overlap between escapist fantasy and business systems. This includes magic mechanics, world building, basically the structure of fantasy, the structure of fiction, the structure of novels, that kind of stuff. The overlap between business systems and liberal politics can be ethical consumption, it can be mental health, it can be anything where that liberal idealism intersects with my business systems. So the overlap between liberal politics and escapist fantasy can include nerd communities like D&D. I'm a huge Dungeons and Dragons nerd, and so I talk about that a lot. We'll get into that when we talk about what kind of content has performed well over the last 13 months. And then also astrology. I think that also applies to liberal politics and fantasy. And in the middle is where all of this juicy brand topic goodness is most concentrated, which is my actual products. These are my novels, these are my planners, these are my journals, my workbooks that I publish as a small publisher. And so this is where it gets the juiciest with all of this overlap. And so if you are a creative, if you are an author trying to build a personal brand and feel kind of restricted when people tell you to niche down, this is how you can be both cohesive as well as comprehensive when it comes to the many different facets of who you are as a creator, who you are as an author. As long as it's cohesive, you're good. As long as you can draw the line between all of these overlapping circles, you're good. It's just that you have to tell the story of how they all overlap. You can't be scattershot. You can't just talk about one thing one day, talk about another thing another day, because your audience is going to be confused. Who comes to you for what is essentially what you're trying to answer in your content. And so if you can't draw the similarities, if you can't draw the connections between all of your different nerd zones in your content, your audience is going to be confused. I had trouble with this back in the day. I just talked about whatever interested me. But people were like, I don't understand. They were like, I don't understand what you're trying to say here because you talk about way too many things. So I had to draw the parallels between all of the different things that I talk about to make people understand how they're all connected and how they all make up different facets of me. Does that make sense? And how all of those different facets influence the work that I do. How do these brand topics show up in the work that you do? If there's no direct line there, don't include it as one of your circles, right? All right, so let's move on to types of content. So we talked about topics of content. So now let's talk about what format I put them in. So there are 4 different types of content that I try to make on a weekly basis, honestly. I have to hit all 4 of these every single week, and there's a reason behind this. Character content is about the know, like, and trust factor. These are your bios. This is personal and professional experiences. These are your beliefs and values. This is your why. This is the human character that you are. This is personality content. This is people connecting with who you are as a person. They have to understand how they can relate to you as an individual in order to know, like, and trust you. If you don't give them this personality-based content, then you're just another faceless brand. You are just another cog in the machine. You are just another corporate entity. If you don't give this vulnerable, relatable, personality-based content, they're not going to develop feelings for you. They're not going to have that genuine emotional connection to you if you don't provide character content. Next is connection. So this is vulnerability. This is lessons learned. This is likes and dislikes. This is similarities with your audience. This is where you offer the olive branch to your audiences. This is where you're like, this isn't just about me. This is about you guys too. This is how I relate to you. This is how I relate to your experiences. This is how we can make that bridge between me and you as individuals. The personality content is all me focused. The connection content is all them focused. So how can you create that bridge between you and them to create that handout to genuinely connect with them person to person? This is where the relationships over transactions comes into play. You have to have this type of content in your content strategy so that you can not just be an influencer. You're not just a personal brand. You are a human being connecting to another human being. So think about that when you're talking about content. Number 3 is proof of work content. Works in progress, excerpts, customer reviews, behind the scenes, market research and surveys, press. So this is content that shows that your works, your being, your business, your books are out there in the world. This is proof of work. This is evidential proof that you are doing what you say you are doing. This is walking the walk as well as talking the talk. So you have to give your audiences proof, like tangible proof that you are doing what you say you are doing. If you are writing a book, you have to show them that you're writing a book. If you are doing an author signing event, you have to show them that you're doing an author signing event. If you are in a panel at a conference, you have to show them that you're in a panel at a conference. You have to give them the proof that you're doing what you say you are doing. So works in progress, excerpts, customer reviews, behind the scenes, market research, and press. All right. And then finally, this is the type of content that everyone thinks they need to do. And a lot of people spend time on this content to the detriment of all the other types of content. It is important, but do not spend all your time on conversion and lead generation. So this is promotional content, calls to action, buy this please, and the story behind your offering. How did your offering come into being? This is very important when it comes to lead generation versus conversion. Conversion is straight up, buy this thing, here's the link. Lead generation is, here's the story behind what I'm offering, so you should buy it. So lead generation and conversion are two separate things, but they lead to the same thing. Does that make sense? Conversion is you just posting the link, being like, go to do this thing, buy this thing, click this link. Thank you, goodbye. Lead generation is, let me take you through the journey of why you should click on this link. Let me take you through the story of why this link is important, why this book is important, why this book is important to you, important to me, so on and so forth. So we'll get into the specifics of that here in a second, but I really want to draw the differentiation line between those two types of content, but both are equally important. So make sure on a weekly basis that you're hitting all 4 of these types, because you need to guide people through that know, like, and trust factor. You need to offer them the olive branch of connection. You need to show them that you're actually doing what you say you're doing, and then give them something to do about it. Convert them or give them a lead gen. All right. So let's talk about my platform that I spend the least amount of time on. On Instagram, over the last 13 months, I averaged around 520 posts over 13 months, which is about 40 posts a month or about 10 posts a week. 40 of those 520 posts generated over 10 interactions, 7.7%. It's all right. It's not great. It's all right. So as we look at our topics, our types of content, so remember connection, character, proof of work, conversion, and lead generation. What performed better? Obviously, here, out of those 40 posts that generated over 10 interactions, 7 of them were character posts, 3 of them were connection posts, 21 of them were proof of work posts, 8 were conversion posts, and 2 were lead gen posts. So obviously, proof of work was the highest performing type of content for Instagram. All right. So proof of work is super important. People love proof of work posts. They love to see that you're walking the walk as well as talking the talk. This is true across all of my platforms. All of the numbers back this up. And so do make sure that you are spending time on these proof of work posts. So specifically, what posts were most popular? On Instagram, the most popular post over that 13 months was a character post. It was on April 15th, 2023, and it was a repurposed TikTok as an IG reel. I did no editing on it. I simply reposted the TikTok video and it got 34 interactions. So I was just simply loving up on my dog. Oh, I meant to make these clickable, but all right, I'll put the links in the description so that you can click on them and see what they're about. So I was just simply loving up on my dog. There was no text. There was nothing else. It was pure dog love. That was the most popular post of 2023. Second most popular was a connection post. So I was traveling to the San Francisco Writers Conference on February 16th, 2023. And again, it was a repurposed TikTok as an IG reel. Again, no editing, no additional polishing, no additional production. I just repurposed the TikTok and posted it, and it got 25 interactions. And it was kind of relatable. So connection, because I was traveling, I had a lot of traveling mishaps that day. And so it was a little more relatable than some of my other posts. And I think that's why it did so well. So think about how you can show your vulnerabilities, show your mistakes as a human being. That's what we're talking about when it comes to connection. So the third most popular post for Instagram was a conversion post. And it was when I was talking about a workshop collaboration that I was doing at the beginning of this year on January 10th, 2024. And it was a Canva image with headshots. So I have been doing a workshop collaboration with Matthew Hegum, and he is one of the leaders or the founder of the 10K creators community. And we did a workshop collaboration on marketing for creatives. And so I posted about this workshop collab on the 10th of January this year, and that post got 20 interactions. And so I think this post did particularly well because it was a collaboration post. I tagged Matthew in it, and a lot of people were notified of it because of that collaboration, because he shared it on his platforms and it had a wider reach than some of my other posts because I had someone else promoting it as well. And so this is very important when we're talking about how to increase our reach on social media. Collaborations are key. The fourth most popular post on Instagram was a proof of work post, and it was when the Elliott Bay Book Company picked up my first novel, Love in the Face of Death. The Elliott Bay Book Company is a very well-known independent bookstore in the United States, particularly in the Pacific Northwest in Seattle, Washington. It's where I live. And they decided to pick up my first novel, Love in the Face of Death, when it launched. And so I didn't get confirmation of that until April 7th, 2023. And I posted an in-store image to announce that they were picking up my novel. And that post got 19 interactions. And so this is also very important when it comes to the collaboration aspect, because this is proof of work that my book is out there in the world, that my book is being valued and picked up by independent bookstores. And so the more proof that you can show of your book being out there in the world and people valuing it, the better. And so that was Instagram for you. Those are the most popular posts that I had on Instagram over the 13 months. Moving on to Facebook. Again, I averaged around 520 posts over the 13 months, and that's about 40 posts a month or 10 posts a week. 77 of those 520 posts generated over 10 interactions, which is around 14.8%. 17 of those 77 were character, 12 of those 77 were connection, 34 were proof of work, 4 were conversion, and 11 were lead generation. So again, we're seeing the massive supremacy of proof of work posts here. They are so important. If you don't do them, you need to. Give that proof. So the 4 most popular posts during that time frame on Facebook were, number 1, it was a proof of work post, and it was a shameless brag about myself. I decided to be shamelessly braggadocious, and I listed all of my accomplishments that I had at the time. I think it was like my book got picked up in 3 different independent bookstores. I accomplished a lot. I did some drafts. I did some workshops. I don't remember what all the brags were, but I was bragging. I was bragging to my heart's content. So don't be afraid to brag. Moral of the story being, this was my most popular post on Facebook. So on March 31st, 2023, it was a text and a 2-second video. And this was a 2-second video that was native to Facebook. So it wasn't repurposed from a TikTok. I literally just shot a 2-second video to post along with the Facebook post, and it got 107 interactions. Again, I will post the links to all of these in the description because I wanted them to be clickable in the presentation, but they're not. So I'll fix that. And this was just me bragging about all the things that I had accomplished during a specific time frame. So I pinned it to the top of my Facebook personal profile after I noticed that it was doing well. And it continued to get interactions. For as long as it was pinned at the top of my profile, it got interactions. And so this post went a long way. One post did a lot of impact for me, honestly. This was it was pinned there for months, I think. I don't remember how long I pinned it at the top, but it was pinned there for a long time. Is it still pinned there? It might still be pinned there. I'm not sure, but I was bragging a lot. It got me a lot of real estate. It got me a lot of traction. I was proud of that post. So number 2 was a proof of work post. And this was again when Elliott Bay Book Company picked up Love in the Face of Death. So this is the exact same post that I did on Instagram to announce that the independent bookstore picked up my first novel. This was on April 7th, 2023. And again, it was text with an in-store image. It was again the same exact post that I did for Instagram here, but it was on Facebook. And it got 90 interactions. So people really liked that proof that people were liking my book, that independent bookstores were liking my book. So that was great. 3rd most popular was another proof of work, which was Love in the Face of Death, sold in 6 countries. Within 3 months of launch for my first novel, it had sold in 6 countries. It was a pretty good launch. And so on February 3rd, 2023, I celebrated that. I posted a text as well as a reader image. So this was an image that I got from one of my readers of them with a book with their cat, actually. It was the book next to their cat. I do not own a cat, but my reader does, and she took a picture of the book next to the cat. And even though my book has nothing to do with cats, it did well, 89 interactions. And so not only did I have the proof of work that it was sold in 6 countries, but I had the proof of work of a reader image to back it up. So the more layers that you can provide of proof that you are walking the walk, that your book is out there in the world doing things, the better. And everyone likes cats too. So that was like a trifecta with that post. That post did great. So number 4 was a connection post, and it was flowers that I got from my mom. It was, I think, flowers that I got because my book had been picked up by another independent bookstore. I'm trying to remember the occasion that she sent me flowers for. It wasn't my birthday. It wasn't Valentine's Day. I think it was when my book got picked up by another independent bookstore. And so she sent me flowers to congratulate me. This was on June 3rd, 2023. And it was just a picture of the flowers, and it had 62 interactions. And I do want you to go to that particular link and that particular image to see the very intentional image that I took of the flowers, because they were purple flowers. And so I specifically took the picture of the purple flowers on one of my yellow pieces of furniture. And as an artist, as a creative, I know that purple and yellow are complementary contrasts. Hello, color theory. If you don't know color theory, look it up. It helps with content. So because they're complementary contrasts, they go very well together, but they also contrast each other very well. So the purple flowers popped on the yellow background of that image. So not only was it a relatable post, me getting flowers from my mom, everyone loves getting flowers from their mom, but it was also a visually engaging image. And so you really have to think about the multiple layers of your posts when you are creating content. If I had just posted up a image of like dark flowers in a dark room on a white background, I don't think it would have gotten that many engagements. I don't think it would have gotten 62 interactions. But I specifically put the purple flowers on the yellow background because I knew that it would garner more engagement than flowers on a white background. All right? Making sense here? Again, go to those links. I'll put them in the description so that you can see specifically what I'm talking about there. It was visually engaging as well as emotionally engaging. See what I'm doing there? Have any questions? Put them below. All right. So now we're getting into the real meat and potatoes here with TikTok. So on TikTok, my most favorite platform, I averaged 780 posts over 13 months, which is about 60 posts per month or 15 posts per week. 73 of those posts generated over 300 views, 9.4%. So I specifically set this bar at 300 views because being stuck in 200 view jail is a real thing on TikTok. Everyone complains about how they're stuck between the 200 to 300 view mark, which is true. Most of my videos, obviously, 90% of my videos do not reach over that threshold, which is okay, but 73 of them did. So we're going to focus on those 73. 29 of those 73 were character posts. 3 were connection posts. 26 were proof of work posts. 1 was a conversion post, and 14 were lead gen posts. Again, we have the supremacy of proof of work, but on TikTok specifically, character won out. Do we understand here? When we let me go back to that slide. When we look at what the different platforms are best used for, TikTok is where character content reigns supreme, right? So it makes sense that my character posts on TikTok performed better than my proof of work. Proof of work still did pretty damn well. We still got 26 out of the 73. That's still a good amount. But character just inched out proof of work just by a little bit, because that's what TikTok's all about, is about those character content pieces. All right. So this time I'm going to break it out into organic versus paid because I do use TikTok for ads. So let's talk about the organic content first before we get into the paid content. So my most popular organic post on Critical Role was a character post, and it was when Critical Role did their live show at Wembley Arena. I posted it on October 26, 2023. It was a 1 minute and 34 second video with a green screen. And so it was my face in front of the green screen with the picture of Wembley Stadium, like the critter crowd behind me. If you don't know what Critical Role is, please look it up. It's a group of nerdy voice actors who play Dungeons and Dragons. They have been streaming their Dungeons and Dragons campaigns on Twitch for 9 years at this point. It's been a while. And they did a live show at Wembley Arena, sold out the arena within 24 hours for 12,000 seats. They sold out 12,000 seats in 24 hours when they did a live show at Wembley Arena outside of London. And so I did a post celebrating that. And the critter community is strong. And so this particular video, without any paid ads, without any boosting, got 44,800 views. That's a lot, right? That's my most viral video to date. Thank you. Thank you. Round of applause. So it got all of that views because of the critter community. All right. The critter community is millions and millions and millions of people across the world who have this very strong emotional bond with Critical Role. This is, again, when we're talking about that transfer of trust. Because the critter community already has that established level of know, like, trust with Critical Role, my content gets that transferal of trust, right? So they were like, yes, you're talking about Critical Role. Yes, we're going to like that. Yes, we're going to watch it. Because I'm part of the vibe. I'm part of the tribe when it comes to Critical Role. So the tribe showed up when I posted about Critical Role. All right. 44,000 views. All right. So second most popular was a lead gen post, and it was a marketing workshop promotional post. I did it on June 27th, 2023. It was a 2-minute and 36-second video, and it got 4,600 views. So notice the big gap there between 44,000 and 4,000, right? Okay. So I'm surprised, honestly, that this post did this well, but it was because I was educating with a story. So this is where I want to underline the importance of conversion versus lead generation. I didn't just say, come to this workshop, give me money for this information. I said, this is why I'm offering this information. This is why I'm giving you this information. This is why you should come to this workshop. I gave them the story behind the promotion. I gave them the story behind the workshop. I educated them and I provided them with context. Lead generation posts provide context. Conversion posts just point at the thing, right? They just say, do this thing, please and thank you. Lead generation posts provide context around the thing. They provide the story around the thing. And so I think that's why this particular marketing workshop promotional video did so well, is because I tapped into that context. I tapped into that story well in that video, obviously, 4,600 views. So next, number 3 is a proof of work, Ridgex unboxing PR box video. So Ridgex is a very popular influencer on the TikTok app. I don't know how many followers he has, but I think it's in the hundreds of thousands at this point. Almost 1 million. I don't know if he's at 1 million yet, but he's got a lot of followers. And his whole shtick is opening PR packages that he gets from companies. He doesn't solicit PR packages from companies. Companies just send him a lot of random crap. And so he has a very particular vibe about him. He is very into crystals. He is very into woo-woo spirituality. He calls himself the moon poppy. Like, he's really into moon phases and crystals, and he's got a vibe going on with him. And I thought it was a very similar vibe to my brand values. Again, go back to these brand topics here. It very much goes into the escapist fantasy and very much goes into the liberal politics right here. So he very much sits within this overlap between escapist fantasy and liberal politics. very much into astrology, very much into crystals, very much into that kind of vibe. And so after watching multiple videos from him, I realized that we had corresponding vibes. They weren't exactly like a match, right? He had different things than I had different things, but they corresponded. There was some overlap. And he accepts all PR packages and he'll do videos of opening those packages. And so I was like, I'll send him a PR box with my books titled To Moon Poppy and introduce him to the Moon Queen, which is the main character of my first novel. And so I drew parallels for him. For this particular package that I sent him, I gave him context. I drew the parallels between our brand values for him so that he was primed to react well to opening my PR box. And so on January 10th of this year, he posted a video of him opening my box. And it was literally a 35-second stitch video with his video. And it got 3,400 views. So stitch videos in particular are very valuable on TikTok. They are high level real estate when it comes to TikTok videos. Because again, we're talking about collaboration. And so again, we're talking about multiple layers here of the content. We're talking about high brand value alignment, plus visibility, plus collaboration, right? Does this make sense? So there are multiple levels to the success of this content piece. So take a look, see what you think. Number 4 was a character post, and it was about my anti-capitalism liberal politics. So on December 18th, 2023, I made a 2-minute 47-second video about how anti-capitalism is the ultimate abundance mindset. This is my most controversial opinion, and I strongly believe in it. This is a hill that I will die on. This is one of my nerd zones that I talk about all the time. Anti-capitalism is the ultimate abundance mindset. And so I talked about this in this video, and this is a core belief that I hold. So it is a character post. It is letting people know who I am as a person, what beliefs I hold, what values I hold. So a lot of people, especially in the TikTok community, are anti-capitalists. Damn the man, save the empire. That's very much the vibe on TikTok. And so it got 2,800 views. So again, we're talking about reaching the norms, the cultural values of the app and using those to our advantage. This is why TikTok is my most time-intensive app. This is what my most energy-intensive app, because my brand values align with the TikTok audience values more so than Facebook or Instagram. So I have a better chance of getting that brand value alignment with my audiences on that platform versus other platforms. So be very particular about what platforms you choose to invest your time, money, and energy in. So let's move on to money. What were my most popular paid pieces of content? So I have found that TikTok ads are very effective. More so than Facebook ads, more so than Instagram ads, more so than Google ads. TikTok ads are very effective. And I think that's because it has brand value alignment for me, but they also have a higher ROI, return on investment, than those other platforms that I mentioned. So what were my most popular paid posts? Number 1 was a proof of work, the Echo of Stars and Water cover glow up. So I showed the drawing that I sent my cover artist, and then I showed the cover that he came up with. And so it was kind of like a glow up transformation video. I posted it on August 11th, 2023. And it's literally a 14-second video with green screen and a popular sound. So I specifically used a trending audio, one that goes all over TikTok. If you've been on TikTok, you've heard it. It's like bump, 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 ba da da da. Wait, I can do better. And then it's like bump, 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 ba da da. Like if you've been on TikTok, you know what I'm talking about. So because this particular video initially did very well, before I promoted it, I decided to put ad money behind it. So let me talk about that in particular. When you are promoting videos on TikTok, I highly recommend that you post the content first to see how it performs before you put ad money behind it. You have to know that that content is sticky enough, is engaging enough, is attractive enough to garner attention before you put your money behind it, right? So this particular video was already doing well. It was getting a massive amount of views in like the first 24 hours, first 44 hours, 48 hours after I posted it. And so I was like, hey, this is really doing well. Let me put some money behind it. So I've promoted it 4 times with a very specific audience, meaning that I don't use the default audience that TikTok asks me to when I'm doing the promoting settings. I have specifically, because I've learned over time, when I first started doing promoted content on TikTok, I used the default audience. But the default audience didn't really give me quality results. There was one video where I promoted it and I got a bunch of like men in my DMs. And I was like, this is not what I want. There was another video that I promoted where I got a bunch of 13-year-olds commenting amen on it. Again, not my audience, not the quality that I want. And so I got very specific with the audience that I started promoting to. So my particular audience is women 18 to 55. So that audience is my audience. That audience is my particular brand aligned audience. And so I do specifically to them whenever I promote my videos, with the goal of more followers. If you go for more views, you don't really get much beyond views. If you go for more comments, you kind of get comments, but it doesn't really translate into followers. And so there's no like long-term benefit to going for more views or going for more comments. I've even tried going for more message requests, and that sucked. I do not recommend that. So the best ones that I've found are going with a specific audience with the goal of more followers. This is how I've raised my follower count to over 1,400. This is how I raised my follower count to over 1,000 so that I could get that clickable link in bio. If you have under 1,000 followers on TikTok, that link in your bio isn't going to be clickable. So people are going to constantly be asking you or complaining that the link isn't working. I got that all the time. Before I hit 1,000 followers, everyone's like, your link isn't working. Your link isn't working. And I was like, yes, it's not clickable because I don't have 1,000 followers. Like, I'm working on it. Thanks. And so I specifically used ads in order to get beyond that 1,000 follower threshold so that that link could become clickable. So it's all about using very intentional strategies here to get the results that you want. And so I've promoted this particular video 4 times with a specific audience with the goal of more followers. So that's 10 days that it's been promoted at $10 a day. So I've roughly spent about $100 promoting this particular video, and it now is sitting at 22,200 views. And I've gotten a lot of followers from this particular video. So it is worthwhile to put money behind those pieces of content that are already performing well. Like if it hits the 1,000 view, 2,000 view, 3,000 view in a short amount of time, the first 24 to 48 hours, maybe consider putting some money behind it to make it even more valuable and translate that into followers so that your follower count can rise so that you can get more opportunities from that higher follower account, right? All right. So the second most popular paid piece of content was a lead generation post, and it was a free self-publishing checklist that I made. I have what I call the ultimate self-publishing checklist, and I offer it for free. It is one of my freebies that I offer to people because people are asking me all the time about self-publishing tips and self-publishing advice, but I don't want to give them all the milk because they haven't bought the cow yet, right? And so I've created a very simplified checklist for people that I offer for free. And I first posted it on July 18th, 2023. It was a 1 minute, 22 second video. And it did well in the first 24 to 48 hours, so I decided to promote it. I've promoted it 3 times with a specific audience, again, the women 18 to 55, with the goal of more followers. And so over those 3 different promotional periods, it has been 6 days at $10 a day, so $60 total, with it now sitting at 8,700 views. And so I was very much promoting this free checklist, this free resource to people, and I wanted people to get value from it as well as increase my follower count, right? So strategy. We're talking strategy here. The third most popular paid post was a proof of work, and this was a self-published planner digital version launch. And so I have a self-published planner. You can see it here. Dun, 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 dun. And I have a digital version of it. And so I launched the digital version, which is just a PDF, on March 28th, 2023. And I did a 1-minute, 54-second video to announce that launch. And because it did well, again, I'm offering value. I'm offering education to my audiences that did well within that first 24 to 48 hour period. And so I decided to promote it 1 time with the default audience. So this is when I was still using the default audience, and it didn't do as well as the specific audience. As we can see here from the numbers, I still had the goal of more followers. So I did learn that lesson at that point in time, but I hadn't yet learned the lesson about the default audience. I did that for 2 days at $10 a day, so $20 total. And it got me 3,500 views. So again, not that bad, but it could have done better. If I had done it with a specific audience, I probably could have doubled the amount of views for that. And then fourth, for the most popular paid content piece, it was the lead gen marketing workshop pitch. And so this was when I was initially just starting to come up with the idea of doing marketing workshops. And it was in April 27th, 2023. And I was pitching it to my audiences. I was like, hey, is this something that you would be interested in? Should I even make this workshop series? Like, tell me what you all think. It was a 2-minute, 10-second video. And because it did well within that 24 to 48 hour period, I decided to promote it with a specific audience. I had learned see the dates here, from March to April of last year. I had learned the lesson of the specific audience. And so for this one, I did have the specific audience with a goal of more followers, $2 at $10 a day, $20 total. And I got 2,800 views. And so again, I was just kind of like pitching it to see if people would be interested in this. I told the story behind it. I told them what it would look like, so on and so forth. And so those are my most popular paid posts. Again, I'll provide the links so that you can look at them all. So what did I learn? That's the $1 million question, right? So the algorithms, what do they want from us? What do they want from us? The algorithms, what does Instagram want? They want queer, they want travel, they want collaborations, and they want dogs. That's what it told me, is that you have to really tap into these niche audience, like sub audiences, like the queer audience, the travel audience, the dog audience, as well as do collaborations. Remember when I talked about that collaboration workshop with Matthew Hegum? That's what the algorithm wants here. So that's what the Instagram algorithm wants. What does the Facebook algorithm want? It wants in real life proof of work, IRL POW. It wants you to show that you're walking the walk in real life. So in-store videos, in-store images, making sure that you are being shown out there in the world doing the work. It wants that IRL proof that you are doing what you say you are going to do. It also likes vulnerability and asking for advice. People love giving advice on Facebook. They love giving advice on Facebook. Some of my most popular posts on Facebook were people giving me advice on things when I specifically asked them to, because I know people like giving advice on Facebook. So I will specifically ask for advice, even if I don't follow the advice. I often don't. I will still ask for it because I know that generates engagement on Facebook. So they want to feel like they're part of the team on Facebook. They want that in real life experience. They want that vulnerability experience. They want that asking for advice. You're going to them and they're like, hey, be part of my life, right? They want you to be like in their face, in their life, in their experiences. What Facebook algorithms do not like is outside links. Don't post outside links. If it's linking to LinkedIn, if it's linking to YouTube, if it's linking to TikTok, if it's linking to anything else except for Facebook, you won't get any reach. You won't get any reach. You will get zero engagement if you link to anything outside of the Facebook ecosystem. Sorry to break it to you. TikTok. What does the TikTok algorithm like? It likes diversity. It likes relatability. Teaching moments, D&D. TikTok loves D&D. Viral sounds, stitches, the radical left. TikTok is very much about the radical left. Montage reviews and TikTok shop. If you focus on those things, TikTok is going to love you. They are the radical lefties. They like the diversity. They like the teaching moments. Like the teaching moments honestly have been the most popular content for me so far this year. Like I'm averaging around 1,500 to 2,000, 3,000 views for my self-publishing Q&A live series, but I'm also tagging it with TikTok shop products. And so if you have a teachable moment with the TikTok shop link, you're instantly going to get those high view counts. So think about how you can combine these to get more impact. What TikTok does not like, vibrator earrings. TikTok completely throttled my account. This is really funny. So when I was at the San Francisco Writers Conference last year, I did a bunch of San Francisco exploring days after the conference was over. And I went to the Haight-Ashbury district. And in this one shop in the Haight-Ashbury district, I found little earrings that were mini vibrators. And they actually worked. They had little batteries in them and they actually buzzed. And it was like a whole thing. And I was very enchanted by them. I thought they were adorable. And so it was literally a 1 second, 2 second clip in a longer video montage of all the things that I had seen that day in San Francisco. But that 1 second, 2 second clip within that larger video montage of the vibrator earrings throttled my account for weeks afterwards. I lost all of my views for weeks afterwards just because of those vibrator earrings. So don't post vibrator earrings on TikTok. Learn from my mistakes. And then trigger words are also very important on TikTok. So death, other platforms, Amazon, LinkedIn, YouTube, or promo speak. So when I say promo speak, I think sales, discounts, giveaways, that kind of promo speak. Even launch sometimes is a bit of a trigger word on TikTok. So when you are creating these salesy conversion lead generation pieces of content for TikTok, avoid promo speak. Get very clever about how you talk about sales or discounts or giveaways. They don't like the word link. So follow my link, click my link for more. They don't like it. So lately I've been seeing people say, you know where the clicky click is? Because everyone knows what the clicky click is. And so you have to be kind of creative when it comes to how you speak on these platforms. Making sense? All right. So how to use your analytics. Now that we've gone over all of this, what do you do about this? So I call this the mad scientist approach. So I treat my analytics, I treat my content as if I was a mad scientist. What happens when I pull this lever? What happens when I twist this knob? Let's write down the hypothesis of what I think will happen, do the experiment, and then monitor the results to then run another experiment for next time, come up with a new hypothesis. Once I thought of it as a mad scientist, then I had a lot more fun with it, of being well, I blew up my workshop. It's time to start over. I'll learn from that experience and try again. The vibrator earrings blew up my laboratory. unintentionally. So I learned from that experience and made a new laboratory, right? All right. So how do you do this? Look at your analytics first and foremost. Video analytics are going to provide the most nuanced data out there. And it answers the question, when exactly do people drop off of your content? You won't be able to see this on your Facebook posts or your Instagram posts because people will just scroll by and you don't know how many people are scrolling by without engaging. But on your videos, you can see where people drop off at what point in the video. So I'm talking about YouTube videos, I'm talking about TikTok videos, and I'm talking about Instagram Reels. Each of those platforms in their analytics for each post will show you where people drop off in the video. So you can see, do they stay until the end? Do they drop off in the beginning? Or do they stay for 1 second and then leave? So your video analytics are going to provide you with the most nuanced analytics. TikTok and IG Reels also provide information on how many eyes were on the content versus how much engagement it got. Again, you're not going to be able to see on your Facebook posts how many eyes saw the post, but then just didn't like it or didn't comment on it. But on TikTok and IG Reels, you can see how many people viewed it and then how many people actually engaged with it, liked it, or commented it. And so this is going to be more nuanced data than, for example, what Facebook can give you. So next we look at performance. So are you getting low views? Are you getting low engagement? Or are you getting a high drop-off rate? So if you're getting low views, this means you are not getting enough reach. You are not getting enough visibility. If you're getting low engagement, you are not being compelling enough in your content. Your content is not compelling enough. If you have a high drop-off rate, there's no hook in your content. So how do we fix this? For views, we want to focus on ads, partnerships, collaborations, shop links, and trends. So ads definitely give you more visibility. Partnerships give you more visibility. Collaborations give you more visibility. Shop links and trends give you more visibility. For engagement, you want to focus on topics, your audience, calls to actions, and questions. So go back to your brand topics. Let me pull up that. And think about how you can make these brand topics more compelling for your audiences. That will make them engage more, right? So also look at your audience. Who specifically are you talking to? Do you know who specifically are you talking to? The more you know who you are talking to, the better you'll be able to compel them to do something. Whether liking, commenting, clicking, whatever you want them to do, the better you know them, the better you'll be able to compel them to do what you want them to do. Which brings me to CTAs, calls to action. So are you actually telling them to comment? Are you actually telling them to click on your link? Are you telling them to follow? Are you telling them to like? Are you telling them to share, to subscribe? Are you telling them to engage? If not, they probably won't because they don't know that you want them to, right? So you have to be clear about what your calls to action are for your audience. And then questions. People love answering questions. So ask them for advice, ask them for input, ask them for insight or stories or experiences. That will get them to engage, that will get them to comment. And then what to do if you have a high drop-off rate. To keep their attention, you need a better hook. So are you inspiring them? Are you educating them? Are you polarizing them? Or are you being relatable? So how are you hooking them in to the emotional experience of your content? Is your content supposed to be inspirational? How do you hook them into that inspiration from the very beginning? If you're trying to be educational, how do you hook them into that education, that value from the very beginning? If you're trying to polarize and be controversial, how do you hook them into that polarization from the very beginning? How do you get up on your soapbox and get that polarized reaction from the very start? Or are you trying to be relatable? So how can you hook them into that relatability from the very beginning? And start with a question. Don't start with a statement. That's what makes the best hooks is, what do you think about this? Or do you agree with this? Or do you want to know this? Do you ever feel like this? Those are the questions that you need to start with. Those are the hooks that will keep people engaged because they want the answer. Once you ask the question, they're going to want the answer if they're interested in getting the answer, right? So that's how to use your own analytics. So as we are wrapping up, I want to let you know that this is coming soon. I was inspired by making this presentation and doing this analytic audit for myself. And so I've started to put the wheels into motion for my Marketing for Authors podcast. This is going to be season 3 of my Interviewing Visionaries podcast series. I've been running it since the beginning of 2022. Season 1 was more about visionaries in transition. Season 2 was about authors and their visionaries. There are visions that have shaped their careers. And so season 3 is going to be about marketing for authors. And so I'm going to be interviewing the amazing and inspiring authors in my network. And we're going to be talking about how we have used marketing strategies to propel our writing careers forward in meaningful ways. So how we use insights like the ones that I've had in this presentation, like the ones that I've had in this audit, to propel our writing careers forward. So this podcast is available on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, coming to theaters near you. Not really, but you know what I mean. And it will probably begin season 3 in April 2024. I think I've got the first guest lined up. He's a TikToker and he's got, I think, over 40,000 followers. So you're going to want to tune in for his insights. I'm sure he's got a lot to teach us. And you can find all those links at linktree/ClaireJoins. If you have any questions at all, if you need any clarification at all for any of this content, comment below, let me know, reach out to me. I'm always here for you. I've got freebie content, I've got paid content, and I also have support services for all of your marketing, promotional, publishing needs. So I'm a wealth of resources, honestly. My 20 years worth of experience in the entrepreneurship and small business space can work in your favor. Learn from my mistakes, learn from my lessons, because there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in those 20 years. So yeah, let's get shit done. Take care, everyone. Love you all, and have a good one. Bye.